These are 5 skills that have repeatedly survived real economic breakdowns across different countries and time periods. Skill 1: Repair and maintenance work. When economies collapse, people stop replacing things and start fixing them, and this single shift creates one of the most consistent patterns seen across crises. During Argentina's financial collapse in 2001, when banks froze accounts and the currency rapidly lost value, households could no longer afford new appliances, vehicles, or equipment, which caused a sharp increase in demands for mechanics, electricians, and technicians who could extend the life of existing items. Instead of buying new, people repaired what they already had, and those who knew how to fix essential goods found themselves in a position where their work remained necessary regardless of what was happening in the financial system. This pattern is not limited to Argentina, because during the economic turmoil of the early 1990s after the Soviet Union dissolved, many industries shut down and imports became unreliable, which meant machinery, tools, and vehicles had to be maintained locally with limited resources. Skilled workers who could repair engines, maintain infrastructure, or improvise replacement parts continued to earn because their work directly solved immediate problems. The key reason this skill survives is simple: because broken things do not disappear during a crisis, they increase, and the person who can restore function becomes part of the survival system itself. Unlike jobs that depend on stable markets or consumer confidence, repair work is tied to necessity, and necessity does not collapse, even when everything else does. Skill 2: Food production and preservation. One of the clearest survival skills across economic collapse is the ability to produce and preserve food, and this has been documented in multiple real-world crises where supply chains became unreliable or unaffordable. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, millions of households in Russia relied on small private garden plots known as dachas, where families grew vegetables and stored food to compensate for shortages in the formal system. Studies from that period show that these small plots produced a significant share of the country's food supply, especially potatoes, vegetables, and fruits, even though they occupied a relatively small portion of the agricultural land. What mattered was not ownership of the land alone, but the knowledge of how to use it effectively, because families who understood planting cycles, storage methods, and preservation techniques were able to maintain food access even as inflation and supply disruptions affected urban markets. A similar pattern appeared in Cuba during the special period in the 1990s, when the collapse of Soviet support led to severe shortages of fuel, fertilizers, and imported food, forcing the country to shift toward local agriculture and urban farming. People who knew how to grow food, preserve it, and adapt to limited inputs were not dependent on unstable supply chains, which made this skill one of the most reliable forms of economic resilience. Food is a basic need that does not disappear in a crisis, and the ability to produce it directly removes dependence on systems that may fail. Skill 3: Practical healthcare and basic medical knowledge. Healthcare remains essential in every economic condition, but during collapse, access to formal medical systems often becomes limited due to shortages, cost, or institutional breakdown, which increases the value of individuals who can produce basic care independently. During periods of economic instability in countries like Venezuela, where inflation and shortages affected hospitals and pharmacies, many communities relied on informal networks of people who could provide basic medical assistance, including wound care, infection management, and general health guidance using available resources. Similarly, during the economic crisis in Cuba in the 1990s, doctors and healthcare workers often had to operate with limited supplies and adapt their knowledge to conditions where modern equipment and pharmaceuticals were not always available. The key distinction here is between institutional medicine and practical medical knowledge, because while hospitals and systems may struggle, the underlying need for treatment does not disappear. Individuals who understand how to manage injuries, recognize symptoms, and provide basic care can continue to offer value even when formal systems are under pressure. This skill survives because it directly addresses one of the most fundamental human needs, which is maintaining health and preventing illness, and that need exists regardless of economic conditions. If this just changed how you see economic collapses based on reality, hit subscribe before the next one catches you off guard. Skill 4. Trade and exchange skills in informal economies. When formal financial systems break down, economies do not stop functioning, but they often shift into informal or parallel systems where trade continues through alternative means. In many historical crises, including those in countries experiencing high inflation or currency instability, people begin using foreign currencies, barter systems, or informal exchange networks to conduct daily transactions. During Argentina's crisis in the early 2000s, large barter networks emerged where people exchanged goods and services directly without relying on cash, allowing economic activity to continue even when the banking system was restricted. Similarly, in Venezuela, as the national currency lost value, many transactions began to take place using US dollars or digital alternatives, creating a parallel system that operated alongside the official economy. Individuals who understood how to navigate these systems, negotiate exchanges, and assign value to goods and services in changing conditions were able to maintain economic activity, while others struggled to adapt. This skill is not about speculation, but about understanding how value is determined when official systems fail, and being able to operate within whatever system replaces them. Trade does not disappear during collapse, it evolves, and those who can adapt to that evolution continue to function economically. Skill 5. Adaptable technical and manual skills. The final skill that consistently survives economic collapse is the ability to apply practical knowledge in flexible ways, especially in technical or manual fields that do not depend heavily on complex institutional support. During economic downturns, individuals with highly specialized roles tied to specific industries or systems may find themselves unable to use their expertise if those systems contract or disappear, while those with adaptable skills can shift their work to meet immediate needs. For example, during the transition period after the fall of the Soviet Union, many professionals had to adjust to entirely new economic conditions, and those who could apply their knowledge in practical ways such as construction, small-scale manufacturing, or technical repair were more likely to maintain income. This pattern has also been observed in multiple recessions, where trades such as construction, electrical work, and mechanical services remain in demand because they are directly tied to maintaining physical infrastructure. The strength of adaptable skills lies in their flexibility, because they can be used in different contexts without requiring a stable system to support them. When conditions change, these skills can shift with demand, making them more resilient than roles that depend on fixed structures or institutions. At this point, if you're starting to see how different these skills are from what most people are told to focus on, it is worth paying attention, because these patterns are not random, and they repeat across history. Across economic collapses in different countries and decades, the same principle appears again and again, which is that skills tied to real-world needs continue to function even when systems break down. Repair work keeps infrastructure running, food production maintains survival, healthcare addresses basic human needs, trade enables exchange, and adaptable skills allow people to adjust in new conditions. These are not abstract ideas, they are based in observed behavior during crises where millions of people had to adjust to rapidly changing environments. When you look at history through this lens, the pattern becomes clear. Because economic collapse does not eliminate value, it shifts it toward what people need immediately and consistently. Food, shelter, health, repair, and exchange do not disappear, and the people who can provide these things retain their ability to earn even when conditions become unstable. The uncomfortable part is that most people spend years developing skills that work best in stable environments, without considering how those skills perform when stability is removed. That is why during major crises, there are always stories of highly educated individuals struggling to adapt. Others with practical, flexible skills continue to operate within the new reality. So, if everything around you stopped working tomorrow, which of these 5 skills would still allow you to function?